Howdy y'all, it is me, JSoldierPro, once again. Today I'll be ranking every single track in Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass. Let's do this! Number 8, Wii Daisy Circuit. This track has such a nice, pleasant vibe to it, man. I absolutely love that about the track. I mean, seriously, it looks so beautiful, it's so nice, it's so chill, the soundtrack is so relaxing, and on top of that, I in general really like the theming of the track. You're literally driving through a town which is owned by Daisy, and considering that there's 2 giant statues of her with Luigi, I'm pretty sure that she wants everyone to know that. On top of that, you have a very satisfying large turn, which in this game has a bunch of boost panels, great addition to the track by the way. And on top of that, my favorite part of the track, of course, where you get to do a shortcut that has you going through a building, I'm assuming without permission from the local residents, and you literally get to fly out of it in a glider section, getting a gorgeous aerial view of the track. Now, despite all this praise and positivity, and despite it actually being an improvement over the original Wii version of the track, I must admit, yes indeed, it is my least favorite track of the wave. And that's simply because out of all the tracks in Wave 6, it offers the least amount to the table. It has the weakest gameplay, and it also has the weakest theming, at least for me personally. Every track in Wave 6 has some really cool factor to it, and Wii Daisy Circuit appears to be, well, it's a town that's owned by Daisy. And while that's really cool and all, it simply does not compete with the other tracks this wave has to offer. Number 7, 3DS Rosalina's Ice World. Right off the bat, this stands out way more to me than Wii Daisy Circuit ever did. I mean, come on, it's a beautiful wintry wonderland. That is so cool. I know there's been several snow and ice tracks in the Mario Kart series, but I'll be honest, I'm always a sucker for this kind of theme. I absolutely love it, and this track is no exception to it. I mean, seriously, you can see the little huts on the ice, and you can even see the Comet Observatory as well as a planet in the background. I mean, come on, this is so nice and chill. I really do enjoy it. On top of that as well, the ice cave towards the end has an interesting incorporation of a split path. The left route is safer but slower, and the right route is faster with boost panels, but at the same time it's also more narrow. Classic risk versus reward, and I like it. There's even a shortcut ramp added to the track just after the ice cave portion, and while it's a little thing, I do really like its inclusion. The coolest part of the track, however, no pun intended, is in fact the underwater part, as you can actually avoid it by driving over the ice above. However, this track has a bit of a plot twist in store, as later on in later laps, the ice will actually recede, trying to force players to go underwater, which is such a cool little detail, and it helps to make this track slightly more memorable than it otherwise would be for me. The final addition to this track, however, is that the half pipes have been added prior to the underwater part of the track, and I'm very happy to see them here. This track always felt made for half pipes, which is weird because Mario Kart 7 didn't have any half pipes. The one thing I wish they would have done with this track, though, is I wish they would have included half pipes on this large area towards the beginning of the track. That would have actually been pretty cool. Overall, very happy with this track, and I do think it's amazing, but like Wii Daisy Circuit, it simply doesn't compete with the rest of the tracks in the wave. Number 6, GCN DK Mountain. Right off the bat, I want to go ahead and quickly clarify something that I've said about the previous 2 tracks. I said for both Rosalina's Ice World and Daisy Circuit that they simply don't compete with the rest of the tracks in the wave, and I really want to make very clear just how true that is. In my ranking of all Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks, I have Daisy Circuit and Rosalina's Ice World ranked pretty similarly. Valley, of course with a preference to Rosalina's Ice World. Both of them are amazing tracks in my opinion. That being said, I have GCN DK Mountain over 30 spots higher than even Rosalina's Ice World, and on top of that, I have it all the way up in Masterpiece tier. Meaning, every track from here onwards, I do genuinely consider incredible tracks, and all of them are masterpieces. And frankly, all of them put Rosalina's Ice World in Daisy Circuit, mind you, tracks that I genuinely do think are amazing in their own right, to utter shame by comparison. Now that that's been clarified, let's talk about GCN DK Mountain. First things first, you literally get shot out of a giant DK barrel cannon that shoots you into a gigantic mountain, which is actually a very angry volcano that is erupting. Not sure why it's called DK Mountain when it's literally erupting, but hey, that's the track name, so blame Double Dash, I guess. Looking at the mountain itself, we can actually see that Wiggler is tricking off the mountain itself, and boy, this is a good change. The Wii version had these really weird wooden ramps, and they were just strange more than anything else. They functioned fine, they were just weird. So I'm happy we now simply trick on the mountain itself. Seems obvious, but I'm happy it was changed. DK barrels have also been added to the track, which I think are a nice touch more than anything. Definitely not needed, but I'm not complaining. And in addition to that, half pipes make a return. They were added to the track and I like their inclusion, so yay. A real notable part of the track, however, is of course the gap jump, which is in fact possible in 8 Deluxe, though it is made more difficult in this version. Finally, we have the bridge at the very end of the track, and now it's not only shorter, but is also wavy, and I like the change. It is surprisingly difficult to actually get a trick off the bridge, but the mere fact that it's waving around does make it more interesting, I'd say, so that's pretty cool. Also, the visuals on this track I truly think are the best they've ever been, while the soundtrack remains underwhelming. I never cared for it in Double Dash, I never cared for it in Wii, and I really don't care for it in this game either. I think it is an improvement compared to the previous versions, but jeebers, this is probably my least favorite Booster Course Pass soundtrack now. It's a competition between this or SNES Mario Circuit 3. Anyways, aside from that, at least the music fits the track, so I can't be too harsh on it. And as I've said, the track itself is incredible. Absolutely love it, but we have 5 better tracks to get through. Number 5, Tour Madrid Drive. First things first, the music on this track. Holy cow, dude. This freaking soundtrack is glorious and I love it. Straight up, this is the 4th best Tour City track music in the entire game. The only ones I'd say beat it are Berlin, Singapore, and Vancouver, but to be fair, those are pretty darn hard to beat. As far as the track itself goes, however, the theming on this track is very well done. Madrid looks absolutely beautiful, and the gameplay on this track is really thrilling. I really enjoy how we get to go through several locations, such as this town square, which has a giant sleeping Wiggler in it, and then we get to go through it later in the track, and suddenly the giant Wiggler is rampaging all over the place. There's also this building, which appears to be some kind of mall, and it's really fun to get through pretty quick, but there's a nice shortcut. There's also a marketplace that you get to travel through, which has thwomps that are crashing down, and a glider section that is reminiscent of Tour Singapore Speedway, even though the one in Singapore Speedway is admittedly much cooler than this. Easily the best part of the track, however, is not until the very end of it, and I'll just let it speak for itself. Just listen to the soundtrack and just look at these visuals. The stadium music is absolutely perfect, and my goodness, am I so happy that this is the finale of the track. The ultimate climax of Madrid Drive. Honestly, nothing else in the track even compares to it, and even though it's brief, my goodness, going through the stadium, seeing everybody cheer you on, the atmosphere, the boost panels, the balls going everywhere, the Goomba shoes kicking the balls, I mean, everything is just so well done. They even went as far as to make it so the crowd is taking pictures of you. That is so freaking cool, man! That's awesome! And after all of that, I do need to talk about the museum section. I specifically avoided it before now, because unlike the other parts of this track, which I mentioned, which are meant to be highlights and work beautifully, the museum section is honestly really sad. You're in and out of it so quickly, you have no time to take in what's even going on, which is a shame because it's so beautiful. I wish the museum part was maybe twice the length, or at least it would have been featured more in the track. Maybe we could have gone into it another time instead. That could have also worked. But as it is, honestly, it's really underwhelming because you go through it once, it lasts hardly any duration of time, especially on 200cc, and you basically don't get anything out of it. Sure, the museum section is underwhelming, but the track as a whole is absolutely incredible, and I absolutely love it. Number 4, SNES Bowser Castle 3. Right off the bat, I just want to go and say this is one of the sickest looking Mario Kart tracks to ever exist. I am serious. Look at this. This screams brutality. This screams world-ending shenanigans. This screams absolute insanity, and I love it. Dear God, the visuals on this track are absolutely stunning, and this track is honestly one of the coolest we've ever seen in the series. And overall, the gameplay here completely blows the original out of the water. SNES Bowser Castle 3 was already easily one of the best tracks from Super Mario Kart. Admittedly, that's not a particularly high bar, but still worth noting. This version, however, puts that version to utter shame. You now get to go on a giant lava fall where you have a massive jumping sequence. This just looks absolutely incredible. You have lava geysers all around you. You're on a giant lava fall. The whole thing is anti-gravity. And in general, this part is just really, really well done. Then we have my personal favorite part of the track, where it literally splits up into not only 3 possible routes on the ground, which are pretty neat on their own, but aren't that notable, and then there's 2 other routes, which are far more interesting. You can literally drive on the walls, and if you do so, you will have the challenge of staying on them, which is not the easiest thing to do. They're quite narrow, but if you can do it, the game rewards you with not only a very thrilling chain sequence of jumps, but you're also rewarded with item boxes as well, which is a nice touch. This is easily the highlight of the track if you can pull it off. Add to all of that an ending that has piranha plants to avoid, thwomps that you can trick off of if your timing is just right, if they happen to be in alignment, and also this section where you're literally driving between anti-gravity lava walls on both sides that are shooting fireballs back and forth, and you have what is easily one of the best Bowser Castle tracks in the entire series. This isn't even mentioning the absolute fire that is this soundtrack. Holy crud, this is insane. Fits the track perfectly. It sounds incredible in its own right if you listen to it outside of the intended setting. Good God, this is awesome. Seriously, I love everything about this track. It's absolutely insane, and it is easily one of the greatest remakes of any track we've ever seen. There's a genuine argument, I'd say, that this is the most improved retro track compared to its original version we've ever seen, period. Overall, this track is absolutely mind-blowing in just about every way conceivable, and yet it's only number 4. That means there are 3 tracks in Wave 6 I actually prefer over this. Number 3, Tour Piranha Plant Cove. This right here is one of the most unique Mario Kart tracks in the entire series, and I say that in a very positive and good manner, because man do I love this track. A good way to describe this track is a blend between Thwomp Ruins and Dolphin Shoals. It's similar to Thwomp Ruins in terms of the theming of it. Thwomp Ruins has this ruins aesthetic, as you might be able to guess, and it's entirely based around Thwomp, with them really being the core of the track. This track is extremely similar, having ruins all over the place, and instead of thwomps, it's actually based more so around piranha plants. However, there's also Dolphin Shoals, and this is referring more to the gameplay than the theming. Dolphin Shoals is primarily an underwater track, but it also has portions of the track, notably the ending of it, which occur above water. So as a result, players really need to be familiar with driving in both ways, above water and underwater. They're similar, but they're also different enough to where players need to get accustomed to both kinds of play styles. Again, Piranha Plant Cove is very similar to this, having vast portions of the track underwater, with there also being significant portions of the track above water in laps 1 and 2. And actually, I'd say this track does a better job at it than Dolphin Shoals does. If all of that wasn't enough, however, there's one more thing about this track. It's the only Tour Nitro track to not be a city track that includes lap changing. This is because it got multiple versions in Mario Kart Tour, and they all have one lap dedicated to each of them, which makes this really stand out compared to the other Tour Nitro tracks that aren't city tracks, and by extension, really the rest of the tracks in the whole game. All of this combined, as I said before, creates what is truly one of the most unique tracks in all of Mario Kart, and that's something I love dearly about the track. As far as the gameplay is concerned, it's an absolute blast, and I have a great time with it. There's no one specific part of the track that really stands out to me. I guess if I had to pick a part, I'd pick the part at the end where you get to go down into this dark underground area that's underwater, and there's a giant eel that tries to jump scare you. But in reality, the entire track flows so naturally, has such great theming, has such a beautiful soundtrack, and has such great variety between the regular and underwater driving that it really immerses me in this beautiful atmosphere. And the track also has a lot of lore behind it, which I quite like. What was this ancient civilization? What was here? And that kind of thing really makes me truly invested in a track. I do, however, have a couple things that I would personally change about it. First of all, I would incorporate some elements of above water driving in the third lap. The whole thing being underwater is kind of strange, and I would have really enjoyed if we went above water at least for a little bit. Secondly, though, and much more importantly, where the crud are the piranha plants? I wish piranha plants were featured more in the track, but not only that, I also wish fire-spitting piranha plants were featured. This track has a gorgeous nighttime aesthetic and makes brilliant use of lighting in the form of torches. Wouldn't it be interesting if the fire-spitting piranha plants were featured in this track and weren't only hazards in the form of their fireballs being bounced around and possibly hitting players, but also something that would add to the decor of the track by perhaps lighting up torches as you go. That could have been something very interesting and would have been a detail I very much appreciated. Not to mention, it would have been perfect for the theming of the track. This track definitely still incorporated piranha plants into the track, particularly into the design of the ruins, but I do think that they could have been implemented a little bit more, and that's something I would have liked to have seen. Definitely my largest nitpick with the track, but ultimately, both of these things are fairly minor nitpicks. Despite them, I absolutely adore this track, even in its current state. It's an incredible masterpiece. It has great variety, gorgeous theming, and overall, it's one of the most unique Mario Kart tracks we've ever seen in the entire series to date, and it genuinely amazes me every time I play it. Number 2, Tour Avanti. The theming on this track is so well done. The lighting is done absolutely perfectly. There's a gorgeous nighttime aesthetic, and overall, I really do feel like I'm driving through Rome in this track, which is exactly the type of vibes this type of track should be giving off, since after all, it is Rome Avanti. The music also fits the track quite well, even if admittedly, I do definitely prefer Madrid Drive music. Additionally, I'd say the highlight of the track is definitely the part where you're dodging chain chomps in the Coliseum. That is pretty darn fun. However, none of that is why this is ranked number 2. There is one key thing that puts everything together and absolutely sells the track. Sure, everything I just mentioned definitely helps, but ultimately, the key thing that really makes this number 2 for me is the layout. More specifically, just how chaotic it is. This track utilizes lap changing to its fullest potential. You are constantly being forced in new, bizarre directions that you really wouldn't expect. The track design constantly keeps you on your toes, and it demands your absolute attention. And that's something I really love about this track. It is genuinely challenging, but it's also themed beautifully as well. No part of this track feels dull. No part of this track feels like it goes on for too long to me. Everything about the track's pacing, everything about the lap changing, everything about the design of the track feels designed in a very good way. And this is why I don't really have anything I'd actually change about the track. I think this track really does everything it's trying to do extremely well, and I don't really have much to critique on it as a result. It really is a Tour City track that has beautiful theming and a very creative layout to it. And really, there's not much more I can ask for in a Mario Kart track than that. The fact I can't really think of anything to seriously critique the track on is a testament to just how good it is. And I suppose as well, Wave 6, because impressively, it's not number 1. As much as I love Tour Avanti, it is not my favorite track of this wave. It turns out there is one track which is not only the best of Wave 6, but has also cemented itself as one of the greatest tracks we have ever seen in the entire Mario Kart series, with many people arguing, in fact, it is the greatest track we have ever seen in the Mario Kart series to date. Coming into this video, you probably expected it, and let's be honest, I already know it as well, and I knew it full well coming into this video. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the best track Wave 6 has to offer. Number 1, Wii Rainbow Road. The visuals on this track are absolutely stunning. You can see Earth below, you can see the moon above, there's star bits all around the track as well as you race around it, and it's really just beautiful. The Rainbow Road texture is glorious, and everything just looks so pretty, it's almost hard to describe the absolute beauty that you're seeing. The gameplay itself is extremely fun. There's a ton of half pipes, the rainbow cannon is always an absolute blast. There's that really crazy turn from Mario Kart Wii, and sure enough, it comes back in this game. There's the beautiful split path portion, which works just as great in Deluxe as it did in the original. And of course, come on now, we also get this beautiful ending with boost panels you're desperately trying to not fall off. And who could ever forget this glorious downhill portion as well, with boost panels to hit. Everything about this track flows so well, just like it did in the original, and I absolutely love that about the track. It really feels magical, it plays like it's magical, and overall, it's absolutely an improvement on what is already, in its original form, one of the greatest tracks in the entire series. The music sounds enhanced compared to the original, the visuals are even more vibrant and beautiful, and the gameplay is also a little bit better as well. well, largely thanks to the track now being anti-gravity. This is a little thing, sure, but this little thing does mean that if you collide with a player while you race on this beauty of a track, that you and them will be given a mutual speed boost, which I do think makes this track slightly more interesting than the original, and that's just simply because there's really a lot of places on this track where you can fall off. In fact, this track is well known for that. The extra speed can easily cause you to fall off if you're not careful, or if you just simply get unlucky. Or likewise, it could do the same to your opponent. A lot of times though, it'll just make this track slightly more enjoyable and fun, because at least to me, I find the anti-gravity gimmick genuinely fascinating in its own right. It also causes your wheels to have a very interesting look to them, and it just adds to the magical atmosphere and feel of this track, as crazy as that sounds. Overall, this track may as well be perfection, and in many people's eyes, it absolutely is. This is one of the greatest tracks in the entire series, and is absolutely among the greatest tracks of all time, in my opinion. That being said, is it my absolute favorite track of all time? I won't spoil it here, because I do plan on ranking every track from Super Mario Kart to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I plan on starting this fairly soon with Super Mario Kart, which, as it turns out, is the reason why I'm only ranking Wave 6 tracks for this video, and am not doing all of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or just the Booster Course Pass. Whether or not this is the best track in the series doesn't really matter at the moment, however. What I really want to share is that this track really honestly is among the best in the series, and ultimately it acts as a perfect finale for what is now my favorite game in the entire Mario Kart series. The Booster Course Pass has added a whopping 48 tracks to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that's absolutely mind-boggling. And Wii Rainbow Road, I truly believe, is a perfect finale track for that. Not only for that, however, but also for the entire game as a whole, a whopping 96 tracks total, and by extension, my personal favorite game in the series. And you know what? I'm very happy about that. So yes, Wii Rainbow Road is undoubtedly, unmistakably, my absolute favorite track of Wave 6 of the Booster Course Pass. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and make sure to enjoy the ending part of the brand new Booster Course Pass credit sequence. I absolutely love it personally. It's such a great finale to such an incredible game, and overall, hope to see y'all next time, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye!